Hi team. It's Tuesday, quarter to 11 a.m. here in Australia. It is June the 15th, I think. No, 9th, 2020. I'm a week ahead. And I thought I'd take this opportunity to run through and create a series of new videos based on some key strategies. I've been busy writing out some documents for some of my members here at the gym at Elements for Life, and it was a trigger based on, I think, people not really understanding what it takes to achieve certain goals. And I thought I'd write down some hard truths and everything that was sort of instinctual in regards to what I thought it would take to achieve some of these goals. And I'm going to break them up into separate videos based around fat loss, strength gain, muscle gain, nutrient plans and relationships with food. We've got skills and technique. We've got mobility, rehabilitation, flexibility, mental and emotional health, and whatever else I come up with. And I thought what I wanted to do was just write out a series of dot points that I think people need to grasp before they actually engage in some of these journeys, because what you need to do is make sure that you understand the process and what is actually involved. I think a lot of people have find it hard sometimes to be patient and execute some of these things. So what I thought I'd do today in the first one is we'll talk about fat loss. It's a very common goal in regards to a gym experience. People come in the door, and I do hear it a lot. They say, "Oh, I'm after fat loss and or weight loss and muscle gain," but little do they know what's actually involved. And there's a whole heap of side effects and bonus benefits that you get from actually applying focus towards these specific goals here in the gym. So in regards to fat loss, I've got about 20 different points here, but what I wanted to do, and I'm not saying that this is the secret and all these will apply to everyone. I've just written these down in regards to what I think is important in no particular order. I just wrote it out based on all of my experience, and there's no doubt I would have missed something, so I'm always open to adding and evolving my understanding of certain things. So let's start at the top. So what are the key strategies for a weight loss solution? Now, number one would be fat loss does not just occur because you join the gym and have done some classes and have started eating salad. Now, what that means is, just signing up to the gym and just mindlessly moving in the gym is not necessarily going to trigger and support the fat loss journey or goals that you want, especially if you haven't got all of the different aspects of your lifestyle and routine together. And I think, and as I'll go through this list, you'll find that there's a lot more to fat loss than just signing up and moving and thinking that eating salad, or I mean, I just threw that in there, but it's just that throwaway line that you can starve yourself to get to a certain goal. Number two, composition change is a discipline. It's a mindset and a repeated routine and behavior. It is a lifestyle. Now, one of our big belief systems here at Elements for Life is that if you want to improve your life, you want to improve your composition, you want to improve your mindset, whatever it is, you have to adopt and adapt different particular routines and behaviors into your lifestyle on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis to encourage the end result. If you're not doing these things consistently, you're going to find what happens is you're going to ebb and flow with that consistency in and out, and you probably won't be as successful as you would hope to be. So just remember, it does take a focus. You will have to choose what results you want, work out how to maintain them, and then accept your body will adapt, change, and ebb and flow through different states of composition based on your life choices and environmental factors at that specific stage in life. So what that means is essentially that we are biological creatures and our body is going to move around. And anyone would relate to this. We do go through cycles of being fit and then unfit. Everyone knows that, when we go on holidays or Christmas time, we tend to put on a couple of kilos. It depends on what you're actually doing. Some people probably lose weight in the holidays because they might pick up some of the training that they've neglected through the rest of the year due to work commitments or family or whatever it is. So what we have to do is we have to accept ourselves and love ourselves for what we are, and also accept the ebb and flow of life, and take those ups and downs as best we can. However, if you will accept that and apply certain disciplines, like I mentioned before, you're going to have a greater success over an extended period of time. Nutrient density food choices provide vitality first, and in many cases calorie deficits second. So what I focus on in regards to when people talk about, have you got nutrition guide? Do you have a nutrition plan? I tend to stay away from plans and diets and things like that. I mean, I think diets do have a place in society if you have a specific goal, like if you're going to get married and you want to look your best on that particular day, or you're in competition, you need to be a certain body weight. It's like boxers need to be a certain body weight before a fight. These certain things are very specific and obviously have a place. However, what we do need to understand in regards to things like diets is that you're going to have a bounce back, especially if the particular eating behaviour is not necessarily sustainable. So that's why diets don't always work. Otherwise, you're going to have to go on cycles of diets. Now, if you've got the discipline and you're happy to do that, that's part of your personality, then go for it. Some people, it's not quite the right approach. So what I talk about first is nutrient density. Now, nutrient density means the quality of the food. And if you had your plate out in front of you, you can quite easily look down at it and just ask yourself, does all the food that's on your plate serve you for high performance? Is it going to give you the minerals and the vitamins and everything you need for vitality and for longevity? And obviously, when you improve the quality of the food, let's say you improve the quality of the fresh produce, less refined foods, less of the processed carbs and things like that, and more vegetables and more of the natural food sources, you're going to find that your calorie intake will actually be a little bit lower anyway, because a lot of the natural foods tend to have a lot more less calorie count per meal. However, that's not always the case if you're going to have seconds, thirds and fourths. Obviously, you've got to eat within your capacity, not necessarily capacity, but within your goals, and also just be mindful of your eating. Reduce overconsumption, so unnecessary calories and food in concentration. So in a Roman Empire type modern society where we have shops and convenience and lots of temptation, there is absolutely no doubt that most humans over consume. And I think, we've got access to having seconds, we have access to having multiple food groups in one sitting. We do eat a lot of concentrates. It's like having a glass of fruit juice. It's not a very natural way of drinking juice. If you think about it, we normally, if you're an animal, you'd eat what you get from a fruit itself, but we don't necessarily squeeze it. And I think that's the case in most things. It's like alcohol, sugar, nice fresh loaf of bread. I think everyone's been able to chow through one of those pretty quickly, and again, we're over consuming in a short period of time, and what happens is we get a lot of unnecessary calories and food in concentration, which doesn't necessarily support our goal. Next one is energy in versus energy out. It's a very simple way of looking at improving fat loss. Is basically you've got to burn more than what you consume. It doesn't always work that way. That's because I will state that I don't think all calories are the same. It's like having high refined processed foods and sugars and things like that. If you're consuming that over your vegetables and over your natural high density, nutrient density food choices, you're probably going to find that the body is not going to necessarily metabolize those foods at the same rate or in the same way. So sometimes they do create different hormonal responses in the body. If you want to talk about insulin resistance, those type of things, that can actually hold us back in regards to our fat loss. So improving the nutrient density is first, and then focusing on energy in, energy out. You can't just consume your way through a day without doing your training and expect to get the results. And I think we've all had that experience in life where we may have gone from training, we've got everything on track, and something happens where training falls to the side, or we've picked it, or we've changed our food habits, and all of a sudden we've put on some kilos, or vice versa. So at the end of the day, we've got to focus on what comes in. It's got to go out. If you love your food, then you're probably going to have to either make some sacrifices, or lift up your training, or increase the nutrient density, or all of the above. Be consistent with nutrition, mindset, and movement behaviours. So consistency is the word here. You want fat loss, you have to be consistent. You can't just sign up to the gym and expect 30 days later you're going to lose 5 kilos and all your problems are solved. And I do hear that from some people. They expect results within 4 to 8 weeks. This fat loss it's a lot harder to burn it off and to get it off your body than it is to put it on. So what I would always suggest is that you need to have a timeline that's more realistic. So you need to increase that timeline from probably about 12 to 24 months for any specific goal, whether it's 5, 10, 20, 30 kilos, depending on your circumstances, and obviously mobility and your effort and your intensity. There's so many things that go into it. So give yourself a little bit more time and seek consistency on the behaviors that are going to support the fat loss. So that's everything from your attitude, your intensity, your nutrition, your movement, the amount of movement, the amount of meals. Are you fasting? Are you eating enough of the natural produce? Are you eating too much of something? Are you deficient in something? So you've got to be consistent and you've got to be mindful. All-in attitudes get better results in a shorter time. However, we must learn how to scale back and adapt once achieved. So I think everyone gets excited when we make that decision that we go, that's it, I've had enough, I'm going to go for fat loss, I'm going to chase it. And you sign up to the gym and you go hard for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks. You get through all the delayed onset muscle soreness. You've been showing up 4 or 5 times a week, and you're really working hard, and then sometimes what happens is we can get a bit of a burnout, or if we haven't really engaged with our goals in the right way in regards to time frame, we haven't really looked at our nutrition and all the other aspects of our daily behavior, you're going to find that what will happen is you may not necessarily get the results. However, there is absolutely no doubt if you focus on fat loss, meaning that you put it into your top 3 based on what you're doing in your life at that period of time, there is no doubt you can be successful, because like anything, if you focus on it and you do the right things, you will achieve it. However, if it's just down the list on the priority list, you're good one day and you're not good the next, you're going to find that achieving the goal is going to be a lot harder. Next one is work hard for the goal for 12 to 24 months and then create a maintenance routine. So someone walks in, I want to lose weight, I want to lose 20 kilos. I go, great, let's go. We're going to focus on a 12 to 24 month plan. We're going to take the pressure off psychologically. We're going to adjust your daily routine and your lifestyle. And what we're going to do is allow time for this goal to manifest with less stress and a more of an enjoyed journey. Now, once you get to a certain state of body composition, there is no doubt what you have to do is you either maintain what you did to get to that point. Now, if you've gone on a crash diet, what you're going to find is you're going to bounce back just as hard if you don't have a tapered off maintenance routine, bringing back in calories. And I might talk about that in another video, but essentially it's a big issue with yo-yo type food relationships. They just simply don't work if you don't have an understanding on how to maintain a certain eating routine. So that's why, with I think eating plans and weight loss plans, it's really important to understand what you're going to do after you've done your 12 to 24 months of focus. And then what you have to do is you also have to find your discipline within certain amounts of blocks of cycles, because you can't just flog yourself for 12 to 24 months and expect it to be the solution long term, because you're going to find that you will burn out a little bit. So you have to be able to ebb and flow and then find a happy medium somewhere in there. High intensity training, HIIT, so HIIT. We also work a lot on high volume interval training here at Elements for Life, as well as high intensity. There's no doubt you can use low intensity steady state, which is something like walking for 2 hours. Now, most people are not necessarily going to spend 2 hours of their day, depending on their lifestyle, walking around at a certain heart rate. Definitely can help fat loss, but what most people seem to be able to fit in is a higher intensity type session, where there's at least 15 to 20 minutes of higher 85% heart rate within a 45 to 60 minute block. But if you can actually connect that with your low intensity steady state, climb a few mountains, do a few walks around where you live, and get out into nature, there's no doubt if you put those two together, you definitely can have a very, very good experience with fat loss. But again, if you're giving yourself 12 to 24 months for whatever your goal is, you're going to be successful if you can maintain that consistency. Calorie deficits each day, week, and most importantly, every month, for again that 12 to 24 month mindset, right? So you're giving yourself more time, less stress, and you're going to focus on a calorie deficit or an improvement on your nutrient density on a daily basis, which will then accumulate towards a weekly deficit, and then obviously when you want to look back, you want to have a monthly deficit. Now, these specific numbers are not always easy to ascertain, because everyone is a bit different. Everyone's got different body mass, different metabolisms, different eating behaviors, emotional state, hormonal states. There's so many things that actually go into our biological function, whether you're male and female. Obviously, females have cycles as well, so they're dealing with some extra added hormones every few weeks, on and off. So learning how to train within those cycles is very, very important as well. So, like I said, if you don't show the discipline, and I think if you actually take pressure off yourself in regards to fast weight loss and just seek improvements in your routine, whether especially from nutrient density and over an extended period of time, there's absolutely no doubt you can create a calorie deficit over an extended period of time. And if you lift your training and you're consistent with your training and your resistance training, heart rate training, and make a nice variation, lots of different types of movement, you're going to find that you will be successful in 24 months. When you look back in hindsight, you're going to enjoy the results. Expend more energy than consumed each day, relevant to the movement on each day. So let's say we've got 7 days in a week, and for 5 days you go to the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning, you smash it out, and then you go to work and you do that for 5 days, and then on the weekends you don't really train. You have every intention to going out and training, but you don't quite do it. And on a Sunday, you're at home, you like to get onto and watch Netflix all day, but your eating behavior and the amount of food that you eat was the same as what you ate on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. As a little premise, if you want to achieve a calorie deficit, overall deficit, let's say in a month, what I would do is actually be mindful of what you're actually doing on a specific day. If on a Sunday you're doing a Netflix marathon, it's probably fair that you should not eat as much as what you would do on a high workout day or a heavy workout day, or on those days that you're moving more. And if you can ebb and flow and connect your movement levels with the amount of foods that you eat, you're going to have a greater result or a greater success in achieving your calorie deficit. You're also going to find that you're not going to overeat and overconsume and maybe fall at the whim of convenience and temptation, because again, you've got to be in control and you've got to show that consistency. So again, eat less on the days you don't move, and feel free to eat more on the days that you are moving. And obviously, if you've got a really heavy training regime, lots of resistance, and you're working hard, I feel that you can actually lift your calories up because you need to find a sustainable level in regards to your energy, and obviously minerals and nutrients and water and things like that. You need to have a good level of that flowing through your body to align with the amount of effort and work that you're doing in the gym. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself depleted, and the body also goes into catabolic breakdown and does all sorts of other things to cope with inefficiencies or deficiencies in quantity and quality of food or energy. So next one, slow twitch fiber activation and fast twitch fiber activation. Now we're getting a little bit complex in regards to how our muscles are actually structured, but in a sense we'll go, this is slow twitch and this is fast twitch, and we put them together. That is your muscle tissue. Now if you are moving within the gym and you're doing a lot of slow twitch fiber activation, what that means is like a grind exercise. Let's say it takes you 3 seconds to do a movement. We could say that that is a non-explosive, non-dynamic grind control exercise. Now if you do that more often, you're only going to work one fiber line within your muscle tissue, and you can actually train your body to focus on slow twitch muscles. And if you want to recruit more muscle tissue per rep or per workout or per effort, and you want to burn more energy, what you need to do is activate both muscle fibers within the muscle tissue. And the best way to do that is to do some dynamic movements. So an example would be things like squat jumps, box jumps, combined with some loaded step ups, right? So we're doing some grind exercises with resistance, and then you're using dynamic body weight with explosive power to activate the fast twitch. So that's why sprinting and lifting as an ideology is a great way to look at it. We want to create explosion and power and output through our muscles, and we also want strength and resistance and force through our muscles as well. So combination of fast, dynamic and slow and steady state type of movements, grind movements. Next one, train 4 to 7 days per week as a minimum, and the workouts need to be effective with intensity. So I do hear a lot, how many times should I train during the week? I would actually say as many as you want. You know, some people go, oh, you got to watch out for overtraining. You know, there are some moments in life where we do get obsessive with our training, and I think that's okay. Do what you need to do for you. If you want to train 7 days a week for 6 weeks in a row, that's fine, but obviously you'll have to be aware of that. You know, you're putting yourself under a lot of strain. There's a lot of strain on the joints and the fibers, and you've got to get some recovery. And if you're not necessarily getting the recovery you need to build muscle and to support the metabolic state of your body, you may find that you can actually hinder some of the results. So what I sort of suggest is just choose between 4 and 7, but set a standard that you actually choose the days that you want as your core training days and make them your days. Put that into your lifestyle, and any added extra days, if you're feeling good and you want to go up, climb Mount Ainslie, or you want to go for a run around the block because that's your thing, or you want to come and do a double gym session, do it. Do what you feel is good for you. But I would say always have the focus where you say, okay, I'm going to train between 4 to 7 days a week based on how I feel at that moment, ensuring that I do focus on my mobility and my rest and my sleep. Now, the other part of that was the actual intensity. So if you want results, what you need to do is learn how to push past the adaptive state of our body. Now what happens is our body does adapt to movement patterns and resistance and stimulus. So if you're lifting the same weights over and over and the same types of training, what happens is the body will adapt and you can hinder your fat loss. So what you have to actually do is either find a linear progression and variation in what you do. So that includes things like lifting your intensity. So if you're going to have a bit of a sluggish day in the gym because you're just feeling a bit tired, a bit stressed or something, you've got to make sure that at least somewhere within the week you're applying yourself with intensity and focus towards your goals with higher intensive movements and effort. Even if it's for 10, 15, 20 minutes of a specific workout, that can be done in various forms where you're just in beast mode, and you've got to switch yourself into that state. Okay, next point is removing alcohol, refined foods, refined carbohydrates, dairy, animal products, wheat products, processed sugar, yeast and inflammatory foods. Now, some of this would be subjective. You know, some people are still eating dairy and animal products, and that's fine. You do what you do for yourself, and what you feel is right for you. However, personally, I feel that there are certain foods that we don't necessarily need to consume. I'm a vegetarian. It's not because I believe in animals' rights. However, there is that. And as we get a little bit older and a little bit more spiritual, I feel like I don't necessarily need to be eating animal products just for my own pleasure, but that's a personal choice. Then there's things like obviously alcohol. Well, I think we can all agree that alcohol has never really served us, and it does affect our metabolism. It affects our fat loss 100%. So if you want to have a fat loss result, you do need to, especially if you're over consuming alcohol, definitely have to either pull it back, if not even better, just remove it for the journey of your fat loss, and see how that actually goes. And obviously it's about being mindful and being disciplined in regards to what we eat. Refined carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates get a bit of a bad rap. Vegetables are carbohydrates, so we can't say that carbohydrates are bad. But when we look at refined foods, things that I've got a really simple way of working out what's refined. If anything that's man-made in a bowl, generally has added foods and will be processed in a way that doesn't necessarily support our metabolism and our biology. And our body can have certain effects, so like inflammatory effects, based on these particular foods. And you've got to listen to your body. I know there's certain products that don't necessarily work for me, and everyone, you've got FODMAPs, and you've got different types of scenarios. People who have got allergic reactions to certain foods, and you've got to do what's right for you, and always be mindful of that, and just make sure that your routine and how the food makes you feel supports your vitality and your goals. In regards to wheat, I'm not a big fan of wheat. I don't believe humans should be eating wheat. It's very addictive, and it's also, I believe, toxic. There's just something about it that doesn't. I love it. I can eat a fresh loaf of bread any day of the week, but I find that it doesn't necessarily support my health and my composition. I find it when I do go into a wheat eating stage, I definitely get a bit fluffy. There's no doubt about that. I also find that a lot of commercial breads are using higher levels of yeast. If you look at some of the big companies, they are spitting out loaves of bread in mass, and they need to get them out fast. So they do use excess yeast, which I think causes maybe a gut disruption, or even an inflammatory response. I'm not 100% sure on that. But there are certain breads that I've had experiences with which either wipe me out from an energy point of view, whether that's the sugars or the yeasts or some other products in it, or they make me feel really bloated and sort of an inflamed feeling. And that's where you've got to take and listen to your body based on certain foods. And if they do make you feel like that, you probably could do without it, and just choose something different. So yeah, choosing the quality of your food. Sugar gets a bad rap. There is absolutely no doubt that processed white sugars in excess, and I'm not talking about having a piece of fruit or just natural sugars that are found in food. I'm talking about the extra, anything that's added. It's like a can of Coke. I think we all understand this. It's got 76 teaspoons or something, 76 grams of sugar, which is something like, I think it's 5 grams of sugar per teaspoon. So it's quite a high number of high level of sugar, and there is absolutely no doubt that's going to create hormonal insulin responses through the body, and if you have it often, you can create insulin resistance issues and all sorts of things. So what we've got to do is we've got to reset our body, come back, reset our food, and our metabolic state, and that's where fasting comes in. Okay, next point is stress reduction and lowering cortisol and emotional PTSD, if present. And I think most people have had circumstances where we are under a lot of stress, whether that's from work, trauma, life. It does tend to have its way on us at certain times throughout our life, and it's very important that we learn how to reduce and mitigate against certain responses. I think I don't think there's a great understanding of subconscious stress, which can come from from, post-traumatic stress disorder and come from trauma and certain different life events that do have an effect on us psychologically and physically and biologically, and it can have effects on our microbes in our stomach and our eating and the way we think about ourselves and the way our metabolic state actually functions throughout the body. So, looking for greater stress reduction is definitely going to help fat loss and just living a better life. Then we've got 8 glasses per day. It's a little bit of a throwaway statement. Should we be eating 8 glasses or drinking 8 glasses per day? It's not a bad model to go by. I think in regards to just drinking more water, but I would actually focus on pure ionized water. I'm very big on structured, pure, reverse osmosis ionized, which means that you're creating negative charge through the water, and then having that water throughout the day. And that's all I have. I'm the water boy. I do drink a lot of ionized water. Definitely try to have 4 glasses in the morning. It's one of the first things I do, is increase the water intake in the morning. And next one is diets only for 5 to 6 kilograms. So understanding that diets do work. It doesn't matter if it's keto or a paleo or a massive calorie deficit, and we're talking about crash diets. You're looking at how much weight can I lose in 4 to 8 weeks type of scenario. What you will find is that most of these diets are only good for 5 to 6 kilos, and then the body adapts to that particular eating behavior and we hit a plateau. So what we need to do is be able to scale down our calories, especially coming out of a diet. So if you've lost 5 or 6 kilos, what you want to do is bring back in 100 calories per day for the next 22 weeks. And you might think, well, that sounds quite difficult. And obviously we have the crash diet type of scenario, and then we've got to have a slow, steady taper of bringing and reintroducing calories back into our diet. Now, if we don't do that, what happens is the body will find it hard to remove the energy or the excess energy that you are bringing back in after a period of diet. So what happens is the body stores that energy. So what we need to do is be very mindful not to bring in too many calories back in after a period of diet. The other way we look at it is to actually just improve the overall quality of your eating behavior and your food choices, and actually have that extended out over an extended period of time and allow yourself to naturally find an equilibrium in body mass from higher intensity training, healthy movement, mindset, and nutrient density. Sleeping 7 to 8 hours, a minimum of at least. For me, I probably sleep 6 to 7 hours 3 or 4 times a week, and then I'll have 2 days where I'll sleep 7 to 8. And that's just sort of how it is. If I know that I need at least one good 7 to 8 hours sleep per week, I seem to function on a little bit less sleep. But if I have 5 hours over 6, I will suffer. So there is a magic sauce in there for everyone. You've got to find it. I don't like oversleeping. I feel like I'm wasting time and wasting energy living my life. I'd like to get up. I'll get up early and get on with my life, but I definitely am mindful about my recovery and my sleep. Trace minerals for fat loss. There is absolutely no doubt that we need synthesis within our body. Now, if we're not eating foods that are freshly picked, that have electrical charge, don't necessarily have the trace minerals and the vitamins, you're going to find that the synthesis within the body is not going to be as efficient, especially with what I call dead foods. Now, most foods, when you go to like a Woolworths, a lot of them are snap frozen or they're packaged and processed, and you'll find that a lot of the charge has left the food. And the best way to explain that is if you pick a fresh apple off the tree, it was electrical. So it was connected to the tree, which was connected to the earth. It has charge. Now, when you eat that, it's going to have a greater electrical synthesis within your metabolism and process and pass minerals and vitamins through to your cells a lot more efficiently. And this is a fact. It's not something that's taught as much as it should be. It's all about eating fresh produce and charged foods and in particular water. but we've got to make sure that we have our trace minerals. Now, there's 108 essential trace minerals. You can't always find them. You've got to either have a supplement, because a lot of due to the industrial revolution of the agriculture, you find that the soils have been depleted. So things like boron, trace minerals, and things like that are no longer found in fresh produce. So we've got to actually supplement on it. You can have things like sea moss. There's no doubt that they have higher levels of trace minerals. Himalayan pink salt has got some trace minerals, but you find it doesn't really synthesize as much as eating something like a sea moss. Then there's vitamins and supplementation. You've got to find what works for you. My little top list would be potassium, magnesium, vitamin C, B17, omega-3, vitamin D, B12, vitamin K, MSM, which is a natural sulfur, L-glutathione, which is one of 4 major components of our cells, and iodine. And they all have a different process within the body. Some cleanse our body, some provide us with energy, some provide us with synthesis. You'll find that most humans are deficient in things like magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin D, B12, vitamin K, boron. There's all sorts of things that humans in the modern world are deficient on, and we need to get a lot more of. So I take a lot of supplements. I do eat very healthy vegetarian meals, and I'm getting a lot of that through my natural diet, but I also make sure that I increase my magnesium, and I have some vitamin C and B17 and B12, not all at once. I just make sure that I spread that out throughout my week, and if I just feel like I'm in control of my mineral and vitamin intake, and just making sure that my deficiencies are no longer dominating my eating behaviour, and I definitely find that that helps my biological state. So that's all I actually had. I mean, it's taken probably 30-40 minutes to get through that little list, and you can see that fat loss is not just about flogging yourself in the gym. I think it's about mindset and an attitude, giving yourself more time, taking away that stress, improving your nutrition, improving your mindset, seeking calorie deficits with intelligence, rather than just going on crash diets and going through a yo-yo scenario. I think what we want to do is create an eating behavior and a fat loss behavior over an extended period of time, and hopefully something that we can actually take on through the rest of our lives. And it definitely will encourage greater balance through our hormonal state and vitality and cellular health. And there is no doubt that I think all of us could do better in some of these areas. So I hope you found that of interest, and there's some lots to take in there. I might put this list next to the video, and feel free to add to it, or give me some feedback on any of those. Feel free to reach out and ask me any questions, and see you in the next video.